Phails at philosophy. What the heck could it be? Life such a mystery. Phails. Welcome to Phails. My name is Philip Jones, and today we have returning guest Grant Potts. Wave to everybody. You guys know Grant Potts. Phails at Philosophy Book Club. Today we're wrapping up the big questions, and we're finding a new book.
Yep.
That's what we're going to do. We both have, Grant has brought a stack of books. One of them looks like it has too many pages. I'm just going to...
You're so page-oriented.
I'm page-oriented.
You are very page-oriented.
Yeah. I had another philosopher on here, David Beaver. I cheated on us with David Beaver. He's a professor of philosophy and linguistics and the director of cognitive science program at UT. And he's got a book called The Politics of Language. And I asked him about, like, hey, why don't we do a book club with your book and talk about how awesome is that to talk with the author about the book? And after I mentioned that, I went and looked at the chapters and I was like, darn, these are like 100 pages long. What am I getting myself into? So I am page oriented.
Well, I mean, it's different. All right, so this is the I actually when I grabbed this book, that's the thick book you see.
Yeah, I see it.
I was like, Phil's going to be like, that's a long book. I don't know. And I don't have that response. I did at a certain, like when I was a kid, for sure, I'd be like, oh, that's a large book. And even into my 20s, there was a level of, but I think I've read so much that the difficulty of the book is so independent of the length of the book. Of it.
It could be an easy book that's really long, or it could be a really dense, tough book that's short.
Exactly. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, like, I had to give up this like thing that had gotten drilled into me in my childhood because of all the like programs at elementary school, which were, I think they did a good thing, but they were like, hey, if you read a book, you get a sticker.
Yeah.
And it was all this extrinsic motivation that I was so tied into, like, that sort of like, I finished a book reward, I'm a good reader.
So you wanted smaller number of pages so you could get that reward faster.
Right. And I had to kind of lose that, right? I had to just, and I don't know how I lost that, except I think I let myself become more comfortable starting books and not finishing them. Like, there's a whole level as a reader in which I approach reading much more in the moment than I did in the past, much more about what am I experiencing? What is this helping me think about? Not just in the moment, but like at this time in my life, and being much more comfortable going back and forth. And I actually like I often have a Kindle book that's like a sci-fi book or something I'm reading. And I'll read it as kind of just relaxation, right? Like before I go to sleep and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of a thing that goes in and out of my life in terms of that kind of book is the thing. And I'll read it like halfway through a novel and put it aside for 4 months and then pick it up again.
And you can, just like an old friend, start from where you left off?
I mean, it's a challenge, and I'm like, what's going on? Who are these characters?
Yeah. So you have the fogginess.
But there's part of me that actually has learned to enjoy that kind of re-entry into a world, because there's this thing where, like, if you go back and watch, like if you really like a series and you watch the first season and you're waiting for the second season, you don't rewatch the first season.
It takes you a while.
It takes you a while, and there's this pleasure for me of the kind of reconstruction of the world of that narrative.
Bring it all back in. And it's probably beneficial for people in community, because sometimes you'll like come across someone you haven't seen in a long time, and maybe they weren't a core person in your world, and you do have to like almost, build them in your brain. Like, who is this person?
Right.
How do I know them? And then maybe some like investigation with language of trying to tease that out without directly asking.
You mean like when you run into like someone who's like, you think is an old friend?
Yeah.
But you're like, it's been a while.
How do we know each other? What have we done? I know we've done something. It's almost like...
I've definitely had that before, especially with high school friends. I don't know, like what I've been re-encountered later in life. And they're talking like they totally know me.
They know you.
And I'm like, I have no idea. I have no context for this human being.
But they could probably say a couple words.
And then it clicks in.
And it would come back.
Yeah.
So that you just don't have the anchor to that memory.
Right.
But they do. Speed round.
Speed round. Big questions. Do you want to do big questions, or do you want to like do a big question and then we both pull out a book? Do a big question. Then
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm easy. Okay.
Either way.
Yeah, I'm down with that. We got about an hour or so. So we'll just do half and half. That's perfect.
Yeah.
First, so we're going to go through the big questions of philosophy. This was a book by Stephen M. Emmanuel. Did you bring that book?
I did not.
Oh my God.
I thought we were just going to talk like
Books.
well informally about the big questions. I didn't realize we're going to.
Well, how are we going to memorize? Do you remember all of the?
If we don't
questions?
do it right, we're bad people.
That's right. We're going to try to accept our imperfection and our imperfect memory.
What did you think of the book? What questions?
Not that one. Let's go question by question.
What questions stood out for you? Or do you have a list of the questions?
I remember the first question,
Okay.
and that's where we start.
Okay, good.
And if I've got to go, I've got it on my thing. If I've got to go get that, that's fine.
Okay.
The first question was how to live a good human life,
Right.
human flourishing.
Yeah, core question.
Core question.
Right.
This seems like an important question.
Yep.
Of all the questions, it seems like one that if humans answer that, it will have a positive impact on not only them, but their community and society at large. Like, how do I live a good life? Unless the answer to them is like rob from people, but I don't know how it would end up being that.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's their good life, that's their good life. Right?
But at least it's another human being living a good life. But they're impacting everybody around them in a negative way.
I mean, we may need to
so
as a community,
boundary them,
right?
Yeah.
And we may even need to thwart. I mean, this is a core question. Like, you know, if you have a notion that we maybe each have a different way to approach a good life, how do they harmonize? And what does the disharmony in your idea of a good life and my idea of a good life, what do we do with that disharmony? Because we all have disharmony between that, right? Most of our political kind of situation, if we're being generous, I mean, there's bad actors, right? But we're being generous with the people on the ground who are just they have radically different visions of a good life.
Yeah, I'm getting my phone so I can keep track of these. Not to pull up the thing, just so I can keep track of it, because you can start talking, Grant, and the 20 minutes go by. And I want to make sure we keep these like 5 to 10.
So anyway, as you're getting the phone.
You can talk to the people while I get the phone,
but I'm not talking to the people. I'm talking to you.
That's right. You're talking to me. I'm the people.
You are the people.
Power to the people. Where did I put my phone?
This is like,
did I have it all along?
This is the great
I had it all along.
barrier to the good life
I had it all along.
in the contemporary world is the amount of times we spend looking for a phone.
Looking for the phone. Baby, I got it. I got it.
So anyway, yeah, you've got these conflicts between visions of a good life, and what do you do with that? One way to resolve that is to just say, well, one of them's right, and you got to figure out what's right, and then the other people have to be stopped because they have the wrong idea of the good life, and it's getting in the way of the right idea of the good life, right?
Through an exploration of the good life, I think you have to consider the impact of your actions on others. And if you come to the conclusion that those impacts are negative, then you'd have to see that negativity as coming back on you in a way that hinders your ability to have a good life. I don't think you can come to the conclusion that a good life is this way.
Right. Yeah. And so that's an interesting thing because like that, you know, if you've got an absolutist understanding of the good life, that there's a certain good life, like even if that's true, there's a recent article I read by Susan Wolf. It's maybe 20 or 30 years old about pluralism and ethics.
Yeah.
And part of what she's trying to talk about is sort of when people encounter pluralist notions of ethics, which is that our vision of ethics, whether we're reviewing it as kind of a rule-based ethics or flourishing or a good life, that ultimately it has to be framed within a number of different perspectives in conversation with each other, right?
Yes.
And part of the article is she's trying to make an exploration of this, an analysis of this position, one that distinguishes it from relativism, right? pluralism is not relativism. It's not every vision of the good life goes. Right. We can say, hey, there's certain things that are not the good life. And what she does is she goes through a number of areas in life that we do this all the time outside of ethics and we're comfortable with. But for some reason with ethics, we want to be absolutists. And then, she says, she goes through this interesting discussion. She says, I think as a philosopher, I think there's probably a truth about what is a good life.
A truth that is universal.
But the paradox is, if we operate even knowing that, with that as our framework, it turns us into tyrants who...
Because we force everybody to fit into the mold of that universal truth.
So even in... it's sort of an interesting exploration.
We have to come upon that universal truth on our own, through our own journey.
Right, so you can have...
So that we can believe it.
Yeah, but you have to have... And I think part of it is the minute you begin to slip into absolutism, you begin to lose your intellectual humility, right? You begin to, because you've gotten usually what looks like a vision of the truth.
Dogma.
Right. This is the value to me of intellectual history, right? Because like if you study the history of ideas, you can see lots of ideas that emerge that look like absolutely true. And by all frameworks at the time, like natural science ideas, that looks like how we should understand the interactions of physics. But then we make a discovery and move on. But those people could have approached that with a kind of an absolutism. We figured it out. This is the truth.
Yeah.
Or understand that the truth, as it actually unfolds for us as knowers, seems to come out of a conversation. And a conversation of people trying to get it right, not just accepting everything. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that's vital for a good life as well.
What are a couple things that make up a good life for you? I remember what we talked about in our original conversation. It was cultivating minds, cultivating the garden. It was cultivation. Is that still true for you today?
Yeah, I think so. I think thriving, right? It's flourishing, right? But on all levels, right? But I guess part of what's important for me, I think some people can have a good life and just thrive and flourish. I'm too much a knower, right? Meaning that like a lot of where I live my life
is in your head or
is
intellectual,
in knowledge, right? Is in trying to have good knowledge of the world.
Epistemology.
Right, exactly. And that's great. I love being a knower.
Yeah.
I don't see it as like being up in my head. There's ways it can manifest that way.
Yeah.
So for me, finding the things that are the signal that the signal that the flourishing is happening.
Yeah. Right? What are the indicators?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's part of what the garden is for me. Like when
it's obvious in the garden.
When the garden is thriving, I have such a feeling of like a kind of woo-woo energetic connection with the garden.
Yeah.
That like I feel like and it's very real on the level that like when I know that my life is going off the rails a little, like in terms of how I'm managing it. A good weekend in the garden, tending the garden and bringing it back into health and thriving when it's gotten overgrown or crazy or whatnot.
Yeah.
It makes my ability to do that in the rest of my life easier. Like it's a practice where I practice bringing my attention to the processes that count. Now, I particularly like the garden because I think it does help me with a vision of the good life in my human interactions, where my role, especially in leadership areas, is not to tell people what to do, but to create the conditions by which they can grow and thrive in the way that we've, that we've worked out is their role within the organization or whatnot. Yeah. And not be a particularly directive, although I can be directive. I try to reserve it.
Yeah. You want them to be self-guided, which I think is organizing teams are the best. That's a blanket statement, but it seems like when I'm self-guided, self-motivated,
Right.
self-organized, you're probably going to get the best results.
Right.
Because I'm excited, I'm passionate. If you tell me to do something
Right.
directive, you're probably going to get the worst value out of that.
If they're structured, if they're in a well-aligned operational structure, right? And that doesn't mean centralized by the, you can have a vision of that that's very kind of linear or whatnot. That's not my garden, right?
Of the three, I'm going to be a little, just to keep us on track, I'll be a little like time-oriented, but which I don't like. Of the three, utilitarianism, virtue, or remember there was three ways we could look at this flourishing. It was like being virtuous. The person is a good person. The outcomes are good, or the action is good. Do you fall one or the other heavily?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a virtue.
I think I'm a virtue person too.
Yeah, and I think the others are important, but they're like, I think at the end of the day, if you're trying to pursue the good life, you're trying to be a good person.
So you stack virtues.
Right. But there are moments where you have to engage in that kind of weighing of outcomes. And that's where utilitarianism is very helpful as a perspective. Again, I'm also a pluralist, I think, more than a virtue ethicist at the end of the day. I see all of them as contributing.
Yeah.
And there are moments, there are kinds of things where, like, the best way to operate is to see that as a hard rule that we don't violate, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a rule, right? Not because of the outcome, right? And not because we've cultivated. But I think in terms of just operating as a human being, the most ridiculous thing we lie to ourselves about again and again and again is that we have the ability to make decisions throughout our day in this kind of executive reflective space. Mm-hmm. And most of the time we're on autopilot.
Yeah, true.
And so something that really helps refine the character so that it expresses itself where you're not capable of making decisions.
Yeah.
That seems to be what's important to me.
I think virtue's the best or my favorite because of, back to that cultivation idea, it's probably the easiest for bringing new people into this community. Like if we raise kids focusing on virtue, focusing on characteristics that then later on give us these outcomes that we want, I think we would get more utilitarian benefit. I think we would get more actions that are themselves valuable.
Yeah, and if you look at like our two kind of big ancient figures of virtue ethics, Kongji, Confucius, Aristotle, in their cultures, their philosophy, particularly around virtue ethics, became cornerstones of educational theory. Right.
Makes sense.
Right. So that leads to the first book I brought.
Okay.
Which is The Character Gap.
The Character. How good are we? That's a perfect book.
Right. It's really about this. I don't know much about the book. It's new.
Okay.
It's I've been getting into this character research in the last year or two, because at my work, we're operating on a grant right now, which is really to explore this field called you can get grants that are capacity building grants, right? And so we're having a conversation at work around character models of education. How do we understand this potentially as a way to make the general education that people do, whether they're in a workforce degree or an academic degree, all those requirements you have to take that are not your major.
Yeah.
How do we help people understand and see the relevance of that,
the value of different types of things,
of educating them?
So you're gonna kind of break down the students as different character types?
No, not necessarily typologizing the students, but more what. And this is like, I mean, that's what we're working on, is what we do.
What we will do.
Yeah, and part of it is like I resist saying too much, because part of the project is that we're engaging in now is an exploratory project.
Yeah.
With a number of faculty to figure out what this looks like before we jump in and say this is what we're. But there seems to be a way in which, especially where it's looked at practical wisdom as an aspect of character, which are specifically those character traits that contribute to knowing things well, like intellectual humility, right?
Yeah.
That have a very clear practical impact, and when we've studied in moral psychology, have an impact on, like, if you develop a habit of being careful, right, with the beliefs you take on before you, but by reviewing them, right?
Before you make them part of
Before you make them part of yours. With that also, we see that correlates with just an ability to learn things better.
Yeah.
In the long run, right? So that it's anchored in the kind of broad educational outcomes that are appropriate for an educational institution.
Yeah.
We're not trying to like morally program students, but rather introduce them to the, and if there is a moral program, it's like, how can we help you flourish as a human being?
Yeah.
Right.
Intellectual humility is, we mentioned that a couple times. It's been a long time since we talked about it on the show. I believe it means an awareness of your shortcomings intellectually and kind of acceptance of that, or what is intellectual humility?
I mean, again, it's like how we approach it. But if we're thinking
how we approach what?
How we approach intellectual humility, like what
is intellectual humility?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's it's like many things like this. There's a conversation and different perspectives.
So you can't define it. You got to talk about it.
I mean, that isn't talking about it, defining it. I don't know. No, it's fun. This is a thing. This is an exercise I engage in with my students a lot because they want the definition. Yeah,
we want definitions,
right? And the thing is, the whole point of being able to approach inquiry with a level of humility is recognizing you're not necessarily
your scarcity of.
Well,
whether intellectual, like cognitive power, or that you don't have all the data you need to make a decision. There's shortcomings in different ways, and you accept that.
That as a human being, you have limitations.
Yes.
Right? And one of those limitations is you want to get the idea down right now. Give me a definition.
Right now.
And you need the humility to recognize.
It takes time.
It takes time. It's not going to get right into the... Yeah, exactly. And then once you get the definition...
It'll change.
Right. So having
impermanence is the only constant.
Having humility about, so it's more of a moral character trait.
Tell me about this book.
Humility about who you are. So I don't know a lot about the book.
What's the byline?
It's new. So I picked it up when I was at a character conference.
Okay.
It's relatively new, and what he says he's doing, and people were talking about it like it was.
It's got a picture of.
It's got a picture of Gandhi and Hitler. Like, yeah.
And it's a spectrum.
But
Gandhi's the best guy and Hitler's the worst guy.
An overview of what the research is on character right now. It's a very kind of, and character research is, from what I can tell, happening in three big areas: moral psychology, educational research, and research in the business world. So it's, I think, trying to bring that conversation together.
Okay, first book proposed is The Character Gap by Christian B. Miller. Byline is How Good Are We? Okay.
Different.
From a page perspective, we've got 200. We're just going to make that part of the data. We've got 200. Some of this is the index, but the hard number of pages, 276 pages. Some of that's the index.
And notes.
And there's notes, a lot of notes.
Yeah.
And works cited. Okay.
Yeah.
How thick do you think this book's going to be? From like, how many times am I going to have to read through each sentence before I understand what's going on?
It does not look super thick. It is an academic book written for a general audience.
Okay. It's a general audience.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so I'd say it's probably going to be you'll have moments. It won't have the variety of voices we had before.
Yeah.
But
because it's one author.
Right. We got 10 chapters. So that's probably 10 good reading moments.
How long are the chapters?
About 20 to 30 pages, it looks like.
I like that. That's not bad. I could probably read that.
And it looks like the notes are in it. Yeah. So I think it's going to be comparable to what we just did.
Okay. And it'll help your job.
I would love to have.
We could have like a synergy.
And I can let all the faculty who are doing our character stuff know we're talking about it. And
and maybe send them this if you want to know more about what Grant thinks about character
and my friend
stuff.
Phil.
And Phil, come watch us talk about the character gap.
Yeah.
I like it. Your turn to choose a question. I chose the first question.
You're not going to choose a book, right?
We'll do that in between every question.
What were some of the other questions? Do you got your list?
Oh my God. I'll look it up. But I think you don't remember one question, Grant?
No,
Come on.
no, I don't.
What kind of philosophy professor are you?
One who is through that syllabus already.
You're done with
now
it.
I'm on to the next one.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple and you pick one. We don't have to go one by one. The first one is how should we live? The second one is what is knowledge? The third one is does reality have a ground? The fourth one is can consciousness be explained? The
All
fifth
right, let's
one,
stop there. What is knowledge?
what is knowledge? Let's talk about it. What is knowledge?
What is knowledge to you?
Man, it's interesting because you just brought up intellectual humility. And I think knowledge and intellectual humility go hand in hand because knowledge changes all the time, right? Our understanding of what is changes through experience, new data. So knowledge is changing. It's amorphous, right? There's not that capital T truth ever, but there's a constant kind of folding in new information and trying to get the best information. We're kind of using that first one of leading a good life, which is discernment. How do we bring our best faculties to bear on discernment, on figuring out, well, what is knowledge? What is important here?
Yeah. I think in the most fundamental level, knowledge for me is awareness.
Awareness.
Yeah. And I'm certain because while you were talking, I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, I also have this very pragmatic sense of knowledge. Like my initial sense usually is knowledge is about figuring out the things you need to figure out to do the things you need to do in life.
Right.
Right. But there's a level at which that never quite satisfies because it doesn't give us any sense of what it is that we need to understand about the figuring out to help guide us in that figuring out.
Well, in the figuring out, you're probably strengthening a tool.
Right. And that
tool is awareness.
Right.
I agree with that.
And awareness of the world around us. In a kind of external knowledge.
And self.
And of ourselves in a kind of internal knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that one. What I've noticed in a lot of my interviews with people, awareness is what we're going for.
Right.
In Mary, when we were talking about balance, the Studio Satya co-owner, when we were talking about Phil Phails at balance, it was awareness. Where am I at? With looking for intuition or all that stuff is awareness. And when you strengthen awareness, you're bringing in more data, baby. You're or you're bringing in, it's almost like you're making your eyes see different frequencies of light.
Right. No, I think that's true. It's bringing attention to the things that need attention, bringing the structures of organizing the data as it comes in.
And more fidelity.
Right, and more fidelity. And yeah, and so I think the consequence of that for me as a philosopher, again, not getting too woo-woo, because I don't think it needs to be too woo-woo, right? Is when I look at, for example, the Buddhist philosophical tradition, one of the strengths of that tradition is its understanding of reason, not as something to just represent on the page, but as something that we train ourselves in, through real cognitive training and meditation, right? That regular practice of some sort of practice. Now, that regular practice can be through a regular practice of reading. Part of what I worry about if we increasingly go to a culture where people don't read books except for a small group of book nerds.
Yeah.
Is there's a training in awareness that comes from the act of reading in long form, right?
Yeah.
That trains you in an awareness that allows for waiting for the idea to unfold over a period of time, for having that patience, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but there are a variety of ways we can train that through practice. So I think knowledge is not just about representing the thing on the page through a series of, propositions leading to a conclusion. It's about training the cognitive faculty to be aware in certain ways that are more reliable and are better at apprehending the world in the way it is around us. I do have a notion of an external world, and we're trying to represent that world but representation is not the goal. Representation is one tool within our toolbox to get to better awareness as a knower.
Yeah,
of the
the question that came up for me,
because there's memory, there's cognition, there's focus, there's all sorts of things that go into that.
The question that came up for me is like, we're seeking knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeking greater awareness. Are we seeking a consistent, continuous structure to get there? And I think the answer is we can't. With every event, with every experience, we kind of have to approach it anew, like that beginner's mindset, because you're not going to be able to, if you try to codify or say like, this is how I'm going to approach gaining knowledge.
Right.
I'm going to do it this way every time. You're going to miss out because everything is different. Like something might be a sound that you want to have knowledge about. Something might be a physical object that you want, and you can't take your physical object awareness kind of structure or numbers like your steps.
Well, and that's
you need
why
new ones all the time.
That's why I think our knowledge is also best held in community.
Because someone might have the sound knowledge way, and some might have,
and that's where the representation comes in, because then they can represent it to us. And for most of us, how we interact with sound, that's going to be what we need. We need that guy who's really run that path, who's really gone down that, to say, hey, after all that experience, this is the best way to approach it.
Yes,
right.
Because we're
not going to know it like that guy knows it.
Tribal knowledge, but we can trust them.
But we can trust them.
We know he's a nerd in this.
We've got validation structures.
He's got certification.
Right. Yeah,
he's a certified nerd.
Right.
In whatever it is, and we trust him.
Right.
I like that. So knowledge. I think we've covered knowledge.
Yeah, figured it out. I never have to ask about knowledge again. What's your book?
I'm gonna pick my book. My book is equally, I think, maybe helpful for my job.
What's that?
It's Malcolm Gladwell's book, Tipping Point.
Oh man, I read that book.
You did?
Yeah.
Tipping Point.
It was when I was at Penn, in my fellowship when I was in the dorms the first year. They always had a common read that there were a lot of first year students in that dorm, and they had a common read that all the first year students would do. And that first year it was Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point.
And the byline is how little things can make a big difference.
Yeah.
There's also a secondary book called Revenge of the Tipping Point, which I don't know if we do both of them or if they could be Revenge of the Tipping Point.
That's probably good, because my guess is it's Tipping Point's pretty old.
Yep.
And Revenge probably updates with the research.
The byline is Overstories, Super Spreaders, and the Rise of Social Engineering.
Right.
And the reason I think
I think either could be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason Tipping Point, I was excited. I don't have it, but I have read it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of Malcolm Gladwell's books.
Yeah, you've got Blink and some other things up there.
Yeah, I've got Blink. I've got Outliers. I've got Talking to Strangers.
Yeah.
I've got David and Goliath. The reason I like Tipping Point is like, I want this to go viral. And I thought like maybe I'll learn something and immersing myself in this. I mean, he's exploring virality.
Right.
He's exploring like, how does something take off? And I'd like this show to take off. I want to make it big, baby. I want to go big.
Okay.
So that's why I bring Tipping Point to the table.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything you want to say about the Revenge of the Tipping Point?
Don't know any. I mean, like, it seems like a potentially good way to go.
We should do that over Tipping Point, huh? Because we both read.
It might be good, although I mean, it's been 20 years since I read Tipping Point. But I also think I probably remember enough that if we dove into Revenge, it would come back.
I wonder if it'll tell me how many pages it has. I want to keep that data. I want to get that data away. How many pages?
You can make a spreadsheet with the number of pages,
make a spreadsheet. Yeah.
The number of chapters,
chapter length.
And then
like what kind of
each
word
one.
I need to have like what's the hardest word in this chapter?
Right.
So am I going to
run it through ChatGPT to
am I going to have to look up in a dictionary? How many times am I going to have to do a dictionary lookup?
Yeah, exactly.
In these chapters?
Yeah.
Can we just
Is this 8th grade reading level, 12th grade, 16th grade?
Yeah.
and then just weight it all, and then it'll put out a number at the end, and you'll be like, that's number 10. That's got the most numbers. I'll choose that one.
I'm going to ask ChatGPT how many pages are in this. Revenge of the Tipping Point page count. Revenge of the Tipping
This is the like most gripping part of the show where Phil spends some time looking shit up on his phone.
Yeah, baby. That's what we're doing.
We're keeping it real.
368 pages. It's pretty fast. Thank you, ChatGPT. It's 368
Yeah,
pages.
and I remember about Malcolm Gladwell being very
a fast
like
read.
he's candy.
He's a fast read.
Yeah.
He's fun.
Yeah.
He's a great author. It'll be stories. It'll be science kind of interwoven in. I love Malcolm Gladwell. That's why I have so many of his books.
Yeah.
It is like candy.
Yeah.
I agree. If you got a sweet tooth for them books, baby, we go Malcolm Gladwell. Okay. Time to do the third question. I'm just going to go down the list because you did number 2. I'm going to do number 3. We're going to talk about, does reality have a ground? I don't think reality has a ground.
Great. We solved that one. What's the next question? I don't think we are capable of knowing whether reality has a ground or not.
We can't increase our awareness, hearkening back to question 2, sufficiently to find one.
Right. And I think there are certain ways we use our knowledge, or, again, understanding knowledge as this like broader awareness, where postulating a ground for reality seems helpful in organizing all the data to make it meaningful. Like that's part of what seems to be the case, is we need to have some sense of a cohesive framework that we could think of as a ground to fit everything in to form a picture of a world, right?
We have a ground because it's helpful.
Yeah, it kind of sets things up for us. It sets up
I get into a car. I don't get into a turtles all the way down thing.
Right. But there are other places where it's more helpful to emphasize that however we've set this up is not the real. Maybe there is no real. Let's not focus on
helpful. Yeah, that's what I get to, is how's this question helpful?
Right.
Why do I ponder this question?
So I think that's...
I don't think it has a ground.
Right. I don't think
how's it helpful
either.
How does it make me a better person?
Right. And maybe that's because that's a more important question to me. I think part of it is I realized when I talk to some other philosophers, they're really invested in figuring out whether there's a ground or not, right? And that's the important question to them as a knower.
Yeah.
It's just not that important to me. And I find a both and. Like sometimes it's good to postulate a ground. Sometimes it's good to postulate a reality without a ground. At the same time, there are certain kinds of things. Geometry. That humans seem to have arrived at relatively independently, that are not based on empirical experience, but based on a kind of way of apprehending fundamental structures.
Tapping into some law of nature.
Yeah. So mathematics troubles me as a potential window into the potential of what a ground might look like.
You can get there with math.
Right.
With numbers.
Like there's a kind of way in which we can
numbers
refine
don't have a ground.
An image.
There's infinite numbers between 1 and 0.
Right. And maybe that concept of infinity is the ground. I mean, whether we can represent it or not is a different thing of whether the ground is there. But we seem to be able to refine these particular ways of knowing that have such a level of stability and transferability across different types of experience that they point for me to like maybe there is a ground out there, right? But yeah, that's the closest I get. And I want to investigate that sometimes. I don't think like what I know I reject are most of our typical foundational concepts for reality in Western thought, which are too tied up with theism. I just don't think theism is a really good way to think about the nature of reality, and it's the way we've thought about it, like that it's grounded in God or something like that. Like theism is more useful to me in a kind of like bhakti,
What's bhakti?
like devotional. Like if you're going to have gods, to me, it seems more important to have them as objects of devotion and worship.
For ritual, for community.
Than as a concept of how the world is put together.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. All right. That's the ground one. You want to say anything else about reality having a ground?
No.
I'm cool with that.
Cool.
Your book.
All right. Well, I don't think I have a book that's about the reality having a ground, so I'll pick out the big one.
The big one.
Just because.
Because that one has no freaking ground.
So I've wanted to read this, and part of why I haven't read it is because it's...
oh my God. It's huge.
It is huge, but part of why it's huge is it's just printed on nice paper.
Okay.
I mean, it's huge though. It's
how many pages?
With the index, it's 692.
Okay,
so it's not a George R. R. Martin novel quite. It's not a
it's not
to
a,
like
a David Foster Wallace infinite jest. Yet
this is The Dawn of Everything: A New History of Humanity.
Okay,
it came out a few years ago by David Graeber and David Wengrow. Part of what they're doing now, David Graeber's gone. This was published after he died. He wrote Debt, and a lot of people know his book Debt, which is kind of a history of debt.
This is a posthumous,
right?
Posthumous.
He's an anthropologist.
Okay,
he was at Yale. He was very involved with Occupy, the Occupy movement.
Yeah.
And he wrote about that. He's an anarchist.
He's a radical,
right? And really has been asking some sort of, he wrote the book Bullshit Jobs. That's another popular book he wrote, which is just sort of this theory that our economic system has basically evolved, that we're producing so much. And I shouldn't say just theory, because he kind of goes through the anthropological evidence for this.
Yeah.
Is that such a high level of productivity that we've had to manufacture all these bullshit jobs because we're unwilling to move past a labor-based understanding of organizing our economic relationships.
That seems interesting.
Right. So this was a book he worked on at the end of his life, and with David Wengrow, who I think is a archaeologist.
Okay.
That is going back into the most contemporary research we have on the archaeology of the emergence of human beings, and basically saying our basic notion that human beings emerged in these competing warlike tribes and the emergence of civilization was based around that sort of consolidation of resources in group identification just doesn't fit the evidence anymore. And that the evidence shows much more of an emergence of humanity around a cooperative, collaborative coming together of humans in a variety of ways.
Chapter lengths look to be about 40, 50 pages. Some of the chapter titles are A Farewell to Humanity's Childhood, or Why This Is Not a Book About the Origins of Inequality. Chapter 2, Wicked Liberty, The Indigenous Critique and the Myth of Progress. Another one, just going to pick Chapter 4, Free People and the Origin of Cultures and the Advent of Private Property. Not necessarily in that order. And let's see, Chapter 10, Why the State Has No Origin, The Humble Beginnings of Sovereignty, Bureaucracy, and Politics. Those are just grabbing a few chapter titles. Yeah. What excites you about this guy?
Well, it got a lot of attention when it came out. People were very excited, and that the intellectual work is good, right, behind this, right? This is not just sort of a harebrained theory they've put together around these, but that they have the research behind what they're talking about. It fundamentally does reframe some of those larger origin stories we have about what it is to be a human being. And that's a part of why I thought this might be good, is because I find you do that. And
I do what?
A curious thing about you often come back to these kind of ideas about an original way of being a human being, right? Before civilization.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As a kind of framework through thinking through things.
Tribal or hunter-gatherers. Right. Yeah.
And so I thought it would be interesting to do a reading of a text that's really looking at that kind of emergence of civilization with you. Because of that.
A little science. I'm going to do a little science. I'm going to pick a word. I'm going to pick a sentence, and I'm going to read it.
As an assessment of how
how thick this book is going to be.
And I've got mixed reviews. Some people say it's readable. Other people are like, I tried to read that book.
You have to take into consideration who is telling you that information.
Right, I know.
Tell me when to stop.
Now.
Okay, we're going to stop there. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Right there. Okay. Oof. The Indus Valley appears, in our interpretation is broadly correct. If our interpretation is broadly correct, I need to read the sentence as written. Read it. The Indus Valley appears, if our interpretation is broadly correct, to represent yet a third possibility where rigorous equality in certain areas, even the bricks were all precisely the same size, was complemented by explicit hierarchy in others. That seems okay.
Yeah.
Probably like it's on the higher side.
Yeah. Like, and it's.
I would need the context, but all those words are fine.
Right.
I'm going to search.
That's the impression I've gotten is that, it's an academic book, but it's an academic book that is written for a general audience.
Sometimes academics make up words to help communicate with other academics, and I don't want that.
Right. And it doesn't seem to be embedded in a particular discipline.
Right. I'm looking through, scanning for weird words. It's mostly normal words.
But it is thick and dry.
It's not candy.
It's not candy.
Not candy. But it's 50 pages, 40 pages, and they got some pictures. I like pictures.
And it's a different kind of thinking through things than we did in the last book, because it's more about the history and what the history tells us about who we are.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Anything more you want to say about that dawn of everything?
Nope.
Okay, you want to open us up with the third question, which was...
Fourth question,
yeah, which is can consciousness be explained? I'm gonna keep track of time. You're good.
No.
It's 11:29.
No,
it can't.
Yeah, but I'm not sure anything can truly be explained. So I think I'm biased on this one.
Well, because things change.
Right.
If things change, how can you? So what we want to do is have a static image of something and say forever this is this thing.
Right.
But what we're only given is the static image of it from when we saw it and took all the information we could gather in an imperfect system where we can't get all the data because our peripherals are they're particular, so we're not getting all the frequencies of light, and we're not getting the sonar, and we're not getting all the information about
that's
something.
A different question than can we become aware of consciousness? That's a different question than can we know consciousness? Can we understand?
Can it be explained?
Can it be explained? I think there's some fundamental ways in which on a more, and this really does go back to Descartes for me. On the most fundamental level,
the Koji,
the knower, right? Yeah, the fact that consciousness is in the position of knowing puts it in a position where it can't reflexively then go back in its explanatory methods and explain itself
and look at itself.
Right.
I go to
it can look at itself, but it just can't explain it.
I go to these woo-woo
right
communities. I'm an explorer. I'm a seeker, and some of them have said like, "Hey, close your eyes, meditate or whatever, go into this place. And now I want you to turn your awareness back on itself." And I've always thought, I don't know that I'm doing that. Yeah. I know you're asking me to do that.
Right.
And I'm trying real hard.
But really, there's a good chance I'm just creating a phantasmagora of things.
Yeah, I'm just doing this thing that you're asking me to do. And because my mind will, when in an influenced state or a open state, I'll give it a shot.
Right.
And then I'll create with imagination and all these other things, whatever that is. But can an eye look at itself without a mirror?
Right.
It can't.
Right.
That's just an impossibility. Right. Can consciousness be explained? But I think consciousness does rely on the body. Because when the body changes, consciousness, or at least its expression changes, or does it? Or is the expression the consciousness?
That's part of what hits those gaps in our ability to explain is that on one hand, it's very tied to physicality, which seems to be defined like the material world is defined by principle and regular and
Prefrontal
predictability,
cortex and all this stuff.
right? And it seems to create a fatalistic understanding of consciousness, but consciousness doesn't make sense unless we have an ability to actually make choices,
right?
And so
choices demonstrate character.
And part of
so
it's not that we can't say a lot about consciousness. I just don't think we can explain it, meaning we get to the end and we have the explanation.
Is consciousness just the awareness of this thing happening?
No, because you're making choices, right? And
is consciousness making choices?
I mean, again, like it's one of those puzzles
the brain
that
could bring in all the data.
Like,
the brain
is the executive function the same as the knowing function? Like, are they the same? I don't know. We can even get there because we're stepping outside the framework of what we can know in an explanatory way, right? Which means that we can represent it on the page. Like, that's the way I think of explanation. Explanation, I can draw it out. I can make a diagram of it and I can give it to you and you're like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I can explain how, and maybe that's the thing, is like, explanations are not wise. Explanations are not, and that's why I said it's sort of a cheat, because I don't think we can explain anything.
It's not a definition, it's a conversation.
Can I explain my car? I don't know if I can explain my car. I can explain to you how it works.
Yeah, what it does.
I can explain to you what it does.
Its function.
Right. So when I get into function, when I get into the process, I can do that. But the why, the kind of like, or the thing, the is, those aren't explanations. Those are kind of big picture that requires a bigger thing than on the page.
So no.
No. So we can move on.
Okay,
Yeah.
my book. I'm putting into our book pile. Our pile of books. I'm putting in The Alchemist.
Oh yeah.
Are you familiar? Have you read this book?
No, I haven't.
I don't have it there on the shelf. I've never read it. It's come up in my circles and people. Oh goodness, this thing knows what I want. The Alchemist is written by, oh my goodness, how can we say this? It's Paulo Coelho?
I think so, yeah.
Coelho.
I mean, if we choose it as a book, you'll have to look up how to actually pronounce it.
I'll learn that.
That'll be your job.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And then we'll get it down.
The Alchemist, though, this book, it's a spiritual book. Do you know much about this book?
I mean, it seems like a kind of a spirituality, self-help book, but maybe it's in a kind of narrative form. Similarly, I have friends over time, people close to me who have really loved that book.
Or quoted it. I've heard quotes of it. It says The Alchemist is an allegorical tale. Right. What is allegorical?
It means it's telling a story to make a point.
I like that. I like stories for points. An allegorical tale of adventure, love, and dreams that explores themes of personal destiny and transformation.
Yeah. And well, I guess allegorical isn't just a story to make a point. It's a story where the point is made by kind of a way in which the story represents the point. So it's not like a fable. It's more like where characters represent different ideas and their interaction as characters are, right?
Is telling that, 208 pages.
Oh yeah, it's candy.
It's probably candy, baby.
It's totally candy.
Yeah. You can maybe pick two books and have like a candy and a...
Or we do, like, we choose one book and however long it takes us to go through, we get closer to another one.
11:36. So. I got you. You're one out of here at 12, right?
Yeah, no, you're fine. I'm looking to see.
Oh, now this is the time in our podcast where Grant looks at his watch, which is his phone equivalent.
My watch, I'm just like, oh, my wife is texting me. I better double check that. And looks like it's something I can address in a half hour.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's see. So yeah, that's Alchemist. Why do I like it? I've heard it a bunch. I've quoted it, and I've never read it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And one of my friends suggested it when I was talking to her about, hey, what books should I bring to the table? I came up with all these this morning and last night.
What's the next question?
Next question. Let's go. The next question is is anything we do ever really up to us? We're talking about free will. We're talking about determinism. We're talking about cause and effect. We're talking about, destiny.
Yes. My answer is yes. It's a fairly open question. Is anything? I'm sure that in the things we do, there's some things that are up to us. I'm not a fatalist.
I don't think I'm a fatalist either.
I think we tend to overvalue how much we have control over.
Yeah, because we don't have control. Right. There's so many
but we make
variables outside of our...
At some points, and I don't think it's helpful to think otherwise.
If we can build habits through action, if we have agency, things are up to us.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the whole idea and notion of agency requires...
Right, and I think living a life without a notion of agency doesn't make sense, right?
No, doesn't make sense.
Because even the need to make sense assumes agency. I would need it to make sense in order to do something with that. I hear the fatalism arguments, but I'm like, but you're making the choice to make that, and you can't get around that fundamental experience.
Oh, they're using their agency to make the fatalistic argument.
Yeah, like that fundamental, and everything else that I think we've built in terms of our way of understanding the world is so preconditioned on the basic premise that we are an agent in a world, right? We don't even have a question of knowledge unless we're an agent in the world.
We have an agent in the world, and yet what we do right now is going to be based on all of our experiences up until now.
Absolutely.
If I was born into a rich family,
yep,
I can't decide to buy a yacht right now.
Right.
Because I wasn't born into this yacht buying family where I can just go buy yachts.
Yeah.
So there is some impact to the past or where your lot.
We have agency, but it's partial.
It's partial.
Right. We have partial agency because there's so many things that shape us and our world that are not our agency as well.
What percentage do you think we got free will? What percentage?
I don't know if it's helpful to think about it because it's only important really in those moments where we have free will.
10%?
I think it's probably a fraction of a percent, but
we're 1%ers,
right? But that we tend to have agency in those moments that most matter, right? Most of the day we're on autopilot, but especially if we're attuned, our awareness knows that autopilot has a good ability to kick us up out of it. When we got to make a decision,
we got to be able to make decisions.
We're driving down the road. We're just on autopilot. But the minute that car comes careening from out of the,
we wake up
and act right
when it's really important,
right? And that's partly, I think, because it does seem when people do the cognitive research, that moment when you wake up and act, you're burning so many more calories than when you're on autopilot. It's just a very decision making awareness agency is a very resource intensive process for the organism.
I watched this video. It was awesome. It was an Oxford debate, a debate at Oxford. And the person who was speaking is an author called Daniel Markovits. He wrote a book called The Meritocracy Trap.
Oh, nice.
I think that's the name of it. I should have put his book on there. And he goes through 4 kind of arguments for meritocracy being a sham.
Right.
And the first one was like investment. The investment is really what dictates outcome.
Yeah.
It's not raw ability.
Yes.
It's not, physical whatever. It's actually imparting knowledge and having high practice. Good practice makes perfect, not practice. Practice makes permanent.
Right.
Good practice makes perfect. And these people have access to the best. So all of that, these kids, these human entities that come from whatever past life into that life, they don't have any choice in that. They just wake up and they're like, oh, I got this person investing a ton of energy into me and dumping a bunch of information. And that's really going to control what they do.
And it's very early. in the
Very
formation of
It's fundamental.
Right.
Whether they say primary conditioning occurs in the home, this is all happening. Their cycle of violence is almost a cycle of meritocracy for them.
It's what the Head Start program was based on, like the justification of the Head Start program, was a recognition that our public educational system was not providing that kind of environment to invest in us as human beings broadly enough, because we started at kindergarten. And by kindergarten, there's a whole set of basic processes. It's the framework. That's why social emotional learning is so important in K through, especially elementary education, because it's such a formative period. And people are like some people hear social emotional learning, they're like, oh, that's getting away from the fundamentals. But it's actually really about the fundamentals of who you are as a human being, as a learner, and the structures of habits that get embedded in a very pliable neurology at an early age. Not that you can't change it later.
There is neuroplasticity.
But it's harder. And it's harder throughout life. And I even see this in myself. Like, I notice how older people are more rigid in their minds. Like, and you see that when you're seeing someone go through dementia, that rigidity rears up even stronger, even as they're losing cognitive faculties.
You need to do some fasting.
Right.
Keep that.
All that is there, and we have that plasticity. So yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting, one of the books that I thought about bringing, but I didn't, was a different book with a similar argument called The Tyranny of Merit.
Maybe we do,
which
get
was
into
more
merit.
of an ethicist's focus on meritocracy.
I want to invite my audience to go watch this video. You can just search meritocracy debate. It's by Oxford Union is the YouTube channel that has it, and Daniel Markovitz.
And what's the name of the book?
His book is the Meritocracy Trap.
Are we going to add that as a book?
And we can.
Yeah.
I'd be glad to add that. And I think the reason I want them to read it now, because of all the stuff it's a topical conversation now about DEI.
Right.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think he makes a really good argument for how if we do prioritize meritocracy, we are going to have rich folks in all the best positions.
Yes.
We're not going to have a good, and I think society requires us to share and to be, and there to be diversity at all areas. And meritocracy, if you watch this, I hope you do, meritocracy is not good for them either. He goes extensively into how it really ruins their lives too. These kids don't want to be poked and prodded from the time they're born to like get good grades and do all this stuff. They want to go run and play and fall down on a playground.
Right.
It's bad for everybody.
Right. Now, that doesn't mean we don't focus on excellence, but the weird thing about meritocracy is that instead of saying we as a civilization are going to focus on excellence and becoming the most excellent human being we can be, we're going to use that as a justification for how we rank people, distribute resources.
Yeah.
That's the problem with meritocracy, is not the focus on excellence, but the focus that like achievement of excellence should somehow be tied to how the system rewards you, and not to recognize the fundamental injustice of a system that excludes people who are trying their hardest
and it makes
within their capabilities.
It gives them. He talks about this too. It gives them this perception of themselves being wrong or bad, because they don't have what they fundamentally can't have. Because they just didn't have that same experience. They weren't invested in from the beginning. So I'm definitely putting this on here, but it is your turn to pick. How did we get there? Oh, we were talking about the question of, is anything really up to us?
Yeah.
And we came to the conclusion that yes, 1%.
Yeah. And then you were like, 1%, meritocracy.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I did think of that. Yeah, that's how we got there. Now it's your turn to pick a book.
Oh, it's my turn to pick a book. Let's see here. What would be a good one to go next? I don't know much about this book. I know you like talking about sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Right.
Let's talk about why do I like talking about sex?
You do. You like sex. It's a good topic.
I mean, I like sex.
And it's a good topic to explore. So this is Andy Newberg.
Okay.
It's a new book. I don't know much about it. I do know Andy Newberg. Andy Newberg did a lot of research on, and I think we've talked
Read
about
the title of the book, Grant, for the people.
Sex, God, and the Brain. Right?
Sex, God, and the Brain. What's the byline?
How sexual pleasure gave birth to religion and a whole lot more.
Okay. It's going to be spicy. A little spicy?
I mean, maybe.
Pick a page
Maybe.
and read a sentence.
He's a neuroscientist who studies how the brain works with people having religious experiences.
So it might not be spicy.
But it might overlay well with like your conversations with some of the tantric practitioners and things like that.
Yeah.
That's part of why I
putting
thought
on his
about
glasses.
this.
Oh my God. Smart Grant just showed up at the podcast.
I mean,
You can't find a sentence. You have got to read the first one your brain.
Prescription antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and antipsychotic medications have all been used to help people with a variety of mental health problems. Importantly, these prescribed medications are known to affect neurotransmitter systems.
I understand all
So
that.
he's right in the middle of a conversation about neuroscience. Yeah, and he's good at explaining. I've used readings from him with our students in the past on his research on brains and religious experiences. He's good at taking complex neuroscience ideas and writing about them in a way that
is approachable.
You
like this guy?
I do like him as a writer.
How many pages we got there?
It's not too long. And he tends to, be presenting kind of here's the research.
He knows people looks at the size of those books.
Where are we going with this? It is.
It's not the size of the book, y'all.
202 pages.
202 pages. Okay.
Sex, God, and the Brain. Let's look at some of the chapter titles.
Yeah. And like how long the chapters are?
14 chapters. These chapters tend to be about 10 to 15 pages.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah,
20
that's
pages.
a small. Yeah. Give us some.
We might read it two at a time. In the beginning, rhythms and rituals, myths and sexuality, sexual ecstasy and spiritual ecstasy, orgasmic meditation, God molecules and the sex molecules, the spiritual brain on drugs. It's organized into parts. The foundation, part 2, the connection between sex, spirituality, and science. Part 3, the impact of the connection, good and bad. Mm-hmm. And that goes over things like sexual and spiritual addictions, sexuality, religion, and violence, the dark side of sexuality and religion. So he seems to be trying to capture kind of a big conversation around the topic, but from, I assume, the perspective of his background in neuropsychology.
I like it.
All right. Next
question. Why do bad things happen to good people? We have 10 minutes. Man, I think shit happens, Joe.
Yeah, I just don't think there's a connection between being good and consequences in terms of what's good. I mean, there is some level.
It's not karma. I don't believe in karma.
Yeah.
I just can't buy karma.
Yeah, I think karma, I think sin and salvation, I think a lot of these frameworks we developed traditionally were rooted in just trying to make sense of a world. And just, the hard thing that like being good is not about getting a reward.
Yeah.
Being good is about being good.
It's about being good.
And it's like that classic being good is its own reward. And it is. And yeah. And it's not that great a reward, except you chose the life that was the good life.
And at the same time, all you guys out there that say karma and believe in that, I'm fine with that. If that helps you be a better person, it's getting us the outcome we want, which is the good,
And I'm open to being shown, like I'm open to be shown an argument. I'm open to being shown a way to understand this. It's one of those places where I have a sense of what I think is right.
Yeah.
But I also think there's probably a good chance I'm wrong. So that's the other side. It's not just I think we're
open-minded.
You can bring that idea and have it because it helps you. But yeah, it's
next book is a book by Robert Bly. Mm-hmm.
Poet.
He is, and an author.
Men's rights, or not men's rights, sorry, men's movement.
He's a renowned poet and author of the groundbreaking bestseller Iron John.
Yeah, that was kind of like
essay,
one of the big men's movement books.
Right. They used that book in the Mankind Project
Yeah.
New Warrior Adventure Training, which I've been through.
Yeah.
And this is the book that he wrote before that book, called A Little Book on the Human Shadow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it comes to me because I had an interview yesterday with a shadow work facilitator. His name is Craig Tennant.
And if I remember correctly, Bly is in a kind of like, when he uses that notion of the shadow, it's like Jungian in origin in the way he approaches it. Yeah, that could be really interesting. I remember early in my reading, I read The Dream in the Underworld, which is kind of a Jungian, post-Jungian attempt to like work out things with how we deal with shadow, right? And I've been interested in that topic for a while, so I'd be game for that.
And I'm interested too because I'm working with Craig. We're going to do a couple. We're going to do a couple talks.
Yeah, I like these potential overlays.
I do too.
With the other conversations
I do
having,
too. Because I want,
and I think all of the things we've talked about have potential overlays with different people.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned this before, and it's been stewing. It's been unfolding inside of me. This idea of bringing in multiple people,
like doing panels
and having a panel discussion,
right?
About things,
or like a conversation with 3 or 4 chairs.
I like the idea of doing that. I mean, it would give me some new thing to do. You know, a different structure and a different type of an organism. You know, with like different people providing information. I think that'd be really cool to have Craig come in and you and me and have that discussion. So it's 96 pages. So it literally is a little book.
Yeah, we'd probably do 2 episodes on that.
Yeah,
maybe 3.
Maybe, yeah. It'd be a pretty small book. And, you know, I think it'd probably be good for folks that a shadow is the things that we hide, deny, and repress. I think that'd be a cool, like, self-helpy time we'd spend together. Okay, next question. And we're rolling up on the end of this time, so we got to speed this up. How much is enough? Greed, prosperity, and the economic problem of happiness. How much is enough?
I think mostly that's a good question to ask yourself all the time, right? I don't know that there's a clear answer. I just think it's good to say, hey, do I have enough? Do I need to keep pursuing more?
What is thriving?
Right. What is thriving? And I think we sort that out, but we also have to sort that out. What is thriving in a community where our thriving isn't at the exploitation of others?
It's so hard though, because I imagine as you thrive, as you get more, you normalize that level of thriving, and that the actual radar, the detector changes.
Yeah. And
to where you want that amount, and then I want that amount more, and then I want that amount more. It's got to be difficult.
Yeah, exactly. I think their best method for addressing that is checking in with each other. Like, am I taking too much of your stuff?
Communal.
Yeah. And we just like, so, and thriving is not just about the stuff, it's about the community. We can't thrive outside of community. I mean, you can sit like a dragon on your hoard.
I mean, I think we have folks that are doing that.
But those people are not happy.
I mean, or their community is their peers.
Or they're in a community of peers of dragons.
Like, of dragons. Yeah. The peer got me in the D&D mind already. Like,
always.
Just like a round table of dragons.
Always.
Like, Elon
smoking
Musk
cigars.
And like, just like on their yachts. They're just on they pull their yachts up to each other and they talk to each other from their like the end of them.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So the answer to that is,
we need a book, don't we?
Yeah, we need a book. It's my turn. Yeah, I did the last book. It's your turn. Book us.
So this is I'm going to go with the next one because it's skinny and you like skinny books.
Oh yeah.
The Reasons of Love.
The Reasons of Love by Harry
Frankfurt.
He
wrote a book I really like called On Bullshit, which is kind of an analysis. He's a very analytic philosopher, but he's approachable as one. It's like 95 pages. So it's going to be very straightforward, trying to think through it. So he's trying to do this very analytic, like what is love? In The Reasons of Love, leading moral philosopher and bestseller author Harry Frankfurt argues that the key to a fulfilled life is to pursue wholeheartedly what one cares about, that love is the most authoritative form of caring, and that the purest form of love is in a complicated way, self-love. And so knowing him and the way he approaches it, the book will be an argument for that. So looking at why we should...
Self-love is the foundation of all love.
The self-love is the foundation of that life of flourishing.
Yeah.
Right? That we need to, if we're looking for a flourishing life, we need to pursue what we care about. And the most authoritative form of caring is love. And the purest form of that is self-love.
It's like follow your bliss.
So
how many pages we got there?
Like I said, it is 100. Exactly 100 pages, 3 chapters.
So it's like 3 episodes.
But
maybe
also a
even
very,
2.
very classic form of philosophy.
Read a sentence. Oh, so it's going to be a hard read.
Not necessarily. It's going to be, he doesn't have a hard sell here. What we love is necessarily important to us just because we love it. There's also a rather different point to be made here. Loving itself is important to us. Quite apart from our particular interests in the various things that we love, we have a more generic and even more fundamental interest in loving as such.
Okay.
So the difficulty is not in his language, it's that he's making a very formal argument.
We got to follow it.
Yeah.
Okay. The last question is, what do we owe future generations? And we don't have a lot of time. So what do we owe future generations? I think we owe them... All this kind of just plays out if we answer the first one. If we live that flourishing life, we're not going to treat our environment. We're not going to do things that leave our future generations in the lurch.
Yeah. I mean, I think we owe them the best world we can leave them without.
Because we have to have a good world.
Yeah, without...
We want a good... It's
right.
Selfish.
Right.
We want a thriving world.
We owe building a world that is sustainable. I guess that's the way to think about it. So, like, when we're thinking about what it is to be flourishing, what it says is we need to have a notion that it's not just a flourishing at the moment or not just a flourishing for our lifetime, but a flourishing that that humans can carry forward and continue to
some
flourish.
homeostasis. Like,
yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I think we solved that one.
Yeah, we solved that one. Last book, Meritocracy Trap. We can put that one on there if you want to check it out.
Okay.
So we're at the end. This is, I don't know, if I can release this one ahead of time, we can have them kind of weigh in on it.
Sure.
Like, what book do you guys want? But I don't know if I'm going to be able to edit this and get it out
so
really
maybe
fast. I still have some other ones to edit from our last book club. So we might want to ponder this and then have a conversation offline.
Yeah, and then maybe we can let them vote when this comes out on, and let's just, by that time we'll have made a decision. Hey, we're reading this one for the next set, but
you can still vote
on the other,
and that could be the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we could use this for our next book. So you guys vote. Which book do you like? What do you want to hear us talk about? We've got a whole list of them, from the dawn of everything to the tipping point or revenge of tipping point. We've got the reasons of love. We've got sex. What was that? Sex.
I think Sex, God, and the Brain.
Sex, God, and the Brain. We've got a little book on the human shadow, The Alchemist. We got The Character Gap. You've heard us talk about a bunch of books here. Weigh in the comments. Let us know what you want us to read. Maybe we'll do it next time.
Excellent.
This has been Phil Phails at Philosophy Book Club with Grant Potts. Today we've discussed all of the questions, all the big questions, and we solved them. So, you all know now.
Good. Yeah.
You all know now. Thank you so much for watching. And keep watching Phil Phails.
Do we clap at the end? I can't remember if we clapped.
I don't think we clapped at the beginning.
We clapped at the middle of the beginning.
Did we clap?
We clapped.
Okay.
Because I was impressed by how much we clapped together.
Yeah. No, we clap at the beginning. We hug at the end.
We hug at the end. Oh, that's right.
We hug at the end. Okay, that's it.
I always have to take off my glasses for that.
Oh, yeah, because it's not a smart act.
Right. No, it's not.
It's a smart aleck. Come on.
Where are we?